Welcome, everybody. We're excited to have you with us for our concluding session for Monday. It's been a really hectic day, amazing sessions, amazing people as part of this community, and we're really excited that you've taken the time to join us and stick out the whole day here. Very excited now to welcome Danny Hughes and Devean George to the conversation. It's going to be really interesting to learn more about the types of projects that they work on. Danny is one of the most sought after and in-demand strategic business advisors and social impact accelerators. He's worked guiding family and private wealth and endowment funding sources, focused on making an impact, consulting with numerous social entrepreneurs and innovators, and coaching champions and influencers. He's a frequent keynote speaker and contributing at leading U.S. and global family office, private wealth, alternative, and impact investing conferences. So we're pleased to have Danny leading the conversation. Devean, as many of you probably know, three-time NBA champion with an 11-year career. This is currently CEO of the George Group, North Development Group. And Danny is, in his post-NBA career, combines the dedication, service, and passion for real estate. In 2009, he established the George Group North, a company that specializes in both affordable and market rate multifamily residential development, mixed-use properties, and property redevelopment, and serves as the company's president and CEO and the president of Building Blocks. So I want to leave the time for them. They've both got so many accomplishments and so many amazing things that they've done. We're looking forward to hearing the conversation. So Danny and Devean, welcome, and thank you for joining us at Sports Philanthropy World.
Thank you, Roy. Appreciate it, and appreciate you, Kayla, and the Sports Philanthropy Network team just giving Devean an opportunity to share his story, his journey, his remarkable accomplishments around affordable housing, and even more about community transformation. We're going to get into all of those nuances about the impact he's made, the journey on how he's gotten there. And, for Devean and I, we've been really since about mid-2018 having the opportunity to just systematically going through and sharing more of the stories, learning about what the investor community is interested in, learning more about what the philanthropy community is looking to support. And so Devean and I have had a chance to go through this process a few times and have always enjoyed it and learned some things. Hopefully we've inspired and shared and engaged some more communities about the projects and the endeavor. And so welcome, Devean. You say a few words, make sure everybody can hear you.
I'm good. Good. Thanks for having me. Can you hear me good?
Yep, we're good.
Okay,
we're solid.
Perfect.
We're solid. So for the group, we're going to do this format. It's really a fireside chat type of allow us to and listen in on how we're just basically just having the conversation about the journey that Devean's done, about specific projects around affordable housing in North Minneapolis, about the roadmap for model projects like that all over the country. And in the event that we should have any technical problems or fall off, or I need to fall off and reboot, Devean is fully capable to take the horns and keep on rolling with it. So if I disappear, don't worry, Devean got it in good hands. So with that, Dee, go ahead and introduce yourself and just talk about the early years, talk about your path to college, and then how you got drafted.
All right. Well, just a quick story about myself is name is Devean George. I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Grew up in North Minneapolis, an underserved community right now, which I really started this model, this Building Blocks model that we'll be talking about later. But really, I was always a small, short kid growing up. Loved basketball. I have two older brothers, older and a younger brother. I'm the middle child, and so I was inspired by my older brother, playing basketball and wanted to be like him. But really grew up with both parents in the house, and I always talk to people in families and say that really I did grow up in an underserved community, but me having mom and dad both around in the household, throughout from birth to being grown, really did give me an advantage. And I understand, and I work with people that have those elements missing, one of the parents missing in the household. So I understand it. So that was my advantage, really. We did live in a bad neighborhood, underserved, but they believed in education. So we lived where we lived because they wanted to send us to private schools, all the kids. They just didn't think the schools in the community where we lived were decent and adequate enough for us to learn. And my parents had that mentality of they want their kids to go further and be smarter than they were. So as I started getting fourth and fifth grade, which we laugh about now, which I'm in the same situation, is my parents couldn't help me with the homework, because things are more advanced. And now I'm in the same
Now
boat
you're
right
that
now.
kid, you're that guy, right? You're that parent.
So I got 6th and 7th graders, and I'm like, man, I don't know this, man. I'm sorry. We need to get, it's funny how things kind of change and keep going. But with that being said, I always loved basketball, but I was just a little short, but I kept playing. I always had a good work ethic. I always watched my parents and watch how hard they were working and working 2 jobs. And I just thought hard work was just normal. As a youngster, we see what we see coming up. That's what we think is normal. I see my parents coming, dropping off food, going back to another job. We just think that's just normal. That's what you do. And so no matter what it is I do in school or basketball, sports, or whatever, I always gave it 110%, and I always gave it my all and see where the chips fall. So as I'm going on, I still love basketball, and I just didn't grow. I didn't grow until going into my senior year in high school. Excuse me. I was 5'10", 5'9", 5'10", and I grew to 6'3" over a summer. And so going into my senior year, I didn't see my friends, obviously the school, over a summer, I'm usually at home more. So I go back to school and I'm 6'3", and people are going crazy. But the craziest part about it was over the summer, as I'm hitting that growth spurt, like I was sleeping like till 3, 4 o'clock in the day. And my dad would come home from work yelling at me, get up, you're lazy. And I'm just like, I'm tired. Like my body was zapped. I couldn't sit in cars too long. My knees were hurting. And so that's kind of the process that was happening. People would see me like days later, weeks later. I'm like, man, are you growing? Are you getting bigger? And I really couldn't tell until at the time I had hair, I had to start ducking to get into the mirror, And so that's when I was like, oh, maybe I am growing. But my feet, and I always had big hands and big feet. And so I was just growing out of shoe sizes like weeks and weeks. And my mom always thought it was like a ploy to kind of get new shoes. And, at Foot Locker, they have those metal trays where you put your feet on there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Mom, my feet hurt. My shoes are too small. And she's like, I'm not buying those shoes. I'm not buying more shoes. So we'd go into Foot Locker and put my feet on there. And they're like, ma'am, these shoes are too small, And so it was just week and week. So just weird things like that were happening. But at the same time, it was a blessing because I was always a small guy, but then I grew. Even though I grew, I didn't really get rid of the things I could do. I could shoot and dribble and stuff like that. So that kind of came into, had a nice little advantage for me. Well, with that being said, going into my senior year, I wasn't one of the guys that had all the hype, but I did try out. I was always one to test my skills. I tried out for all our Minnesota select teams, the Howard Pulley teams, all the elite teams, got cut every year. And I would always kind of just really want to get cut and come back next year and say, I'm coming back next year, I'm gonna make the team. And I just had this thing that, no really didn't, discourage me. It kind of encouraged me. It kind of made me say, okay, kind of like, oh, this is what I need to work on. So I patiently waited after the coach, after the tryouts and asked the coaches, what do I need to do to get better? And I go right to the gym and try to work on it and, try to come back. But then it just all kind of came together with the hard work. And then I started growing. And so, but with that being said, I was off the radar, didn't get any scholarship offers. No one knew me. I'm at a private school in Minnesota. We were a small private school, but we were in this, they called the Minnesota Conference, where we're playing all these big schools. We're getting beat by 20 points every night. So things just didn't happen for me on the scholarship, tip. And so when I graduated, I said, man, I still love basketball. I want to play. So let me just, get an education, go to a small D3 school, still play basketball and get an education and get ready to go into the business world and find a job. Mm-hmm. Well, I got there, I started growing more. So I started growing more, I started getting stronger. And then I started to play in the summer leagues against some of the guys at D1 and some of the pros. Because in the summertime, everyone kind of comes home. Kids that play at bigger colleges, they come home. Pros that live there, they come home. And then there's pro-am leagues. And then as I start to play against those guys, I'm like, there's no difference between me paying, getting $60,000 in debt of student loans between these guys, getting free education. And so
Right.
I started to kind of ask those coaches, hey, what would it take for me to transfer there? And then they kind of really couldn't do it too much tampering and whatnot, but they kind of gave me clues of saying, hey, that guy that was trying to guard you, he's our best guy. He doesn't pay for school. He's on scholarship. And so I'm like, oh, that's a nice little hint to say, welcome, come on through. So I was thinking of transferring, but I didn't. My dad was really adamant on keeping me where I was at. There was a lot of buzz going on. The news would come over to the school a lot. I was in the papers every day. And he was kind of the one of the believer in this. And this was a time where, back in the early 2000s, 99, it wasn't social media where someone can say, hey, there's a kid at this small school, take a picture or a video and millions of people see it. It's just not like that. It was really, truly word of mouth. Someone had to tell someone else had to tell someone. And then it just had to kind of, the word had to spread. And so I started making noise and playing in the summer leagues, playing against these guys. And then pro teams started to hear about it. And then it just kind of one thing led to another. And then scouts started to come to the games. And then I'm like, okay, the scouts at the games. And my dad would never say, I told you, I told you to sit still and do it. And so my friends would rush to me and my family after the game. Like they were excited, man, the Bucks were here, the Bulls were here. Like every day it would be someone different. And my dad would just kind of look away, like he wouldn't even look at me. I'm like, all right, man, you were right. He's like, nope, don't talk to me about it. Just keep going. And so, well, with that being said, I finished my career at Augsburg. Senior year. Now it's time to get invited to the pre-draft camps to try to get drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm at a D3 school. They only take for the first camp, there's only 64 players taken. So they only take the top 64 players and kind of work them out. The lottery pick guys, at that time, they didn't go to the camp. They were already going to be, those were guys that at Duke or North Carolina. The teams have seen enough of them, kind of like Zion Williams. He doesn't go to a workout. He's going to get drafted. Mm-hmm. So these other camps are for the other 60 guys or so that they think have potential to make it to the league. Well, I didn't get invited, and I was trying to get invited. I had people sending tapes, and so there was one guy there. His name's Yale Dosey. Rest in peace, Yale Dosey. He was a guy that was a big fan and helped Scottie Pippen get in the tournament. Dennis Rodman. So he was a small school guy. He liked his little diamonds
the hidden gems, unfounded, right?
So Yale was pushing the committee like, hey, let's let this kid in from Augsburg, this little small school. And they were telling him, no, Yale, no. And he's like, come on, let me, he was really pulling for me. So what happened, and I always tell kids this, that, being a pro athlete, most people just think, I'll just go to the gym and practice. And it just happens, I'll get drafted. But from being a professional athlete, like there's so many things that just have to fall in line perfectly, like right time, right place, right age. Injuries happen at the right time. I got injured at certain times. A guy got injured on the camp of 64, the day before the camp. And so what they said is, well, let's let Yale's guy in. Yale's guy, let's let him in. We got one spot open. Somebody got hurt. Let's let Yale's guy in. Well, when I got there, Yale runs up to me. He was a little guy. And he's like, I know you're going to make me look good. You're going to make me look good. They're going to love me after this. I know. I've tried to tell you. I've been pushing for you, and you're here. And so I told him I'm going to make him look good. And I ended up being the MVP of the tournament. We ended up winning. We didn't lose any game. Did all the drills. I was the top camper at the Portsmouth Invitational. So when people come over to my house, I'll show, I'll have my NBA stuff and basketballs and rings. And there's a guy, a signed picture with Yale and me. And people were kind of like, hey, who's this white guy that's got this shrine on where your trophies are? I said, well, that's really probably reason why I'm in the NBA is because of this guy. So that's long story short. So I get into that. And then once I got there, it just kind of spread like wildfire. I had to go to every team. They were bringing me in. I worked out until the morning of the draft. Like every team wanted to see me. Bring them in. We want to see him. They were pushing me against two guys. And then the one team which drafted me were the Lakers. I was the 23rd overall pick. I was the first Division III player ever drafted in NBA history. And then it was Phil Jackson's first year. He just came over there. So Phil, I was in awe because in Minnesota, we had WGN, which is, we got all the Chicago Bulls games. We got more Bulls games than we had Timberwolves. That, every game.
Right.
So we were all kind of, Michael Jordan fans, coming up. And so just seeing, this guy's bringing me in for a workout. He coached Michael Jordan. I'm like, wow. So he works us out, and they really brought me in. They had another guy that they wanted to. I was kind of the test dummy. Hey, let's just bring this guy in. We think we'll give him we really want to watch this other kid, but let's just bring him in. So he had us go one-on-one and do drills. And I was just really giving it to this guy that I know they wanted to draft him. They didn't want me at the time because obviously they had, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. They had Rick Fox. They had Eddie Jones. They had all these swing players in their youth. They had Glenn Rice. So they had all these players that played the same position as me. I'm like, why would they do that? Well, now I know, obviously, that's how, teams draft. If you have older players, you draft younger players to kind of get groomed for a year, and then the older players move on and you don't miss a beat. You have younger legs come in and can do the same thing. So I'm thinking there's no way they're going to draft me. I had a really good draft, and Phil, he was a jokester, and he's just like, you really had a good lucky. And I was like, Mr. Jackson. He's like, no, you don't have to call him Mr. Jackson. I was just intimidated. This is Phil Jackson. And so he's like, no, let's end this workout. You got lucky today. And I was like, that's not luck. I'll go shoot some more for you. You want me to go shoot some more? That's not luck. And so he's like, no, you're really lucky today. You should be happy. And he just walked off. And so I'm like, am I done? In that time, all the guys that were working, the ball boys and stuff, they didn't know how he rolled. And so I guess they were looking at me like, I guess we're done. And so he just walks out of the arena. So a week goes by, agent calls me. He says, hey, they want you to come back in again. And I'm like, man, and I can't say no to a workout. I'm trying to get drafted. So I'm like, they just saw me. So I go back again, Phil's there again. And I'm not going to repeat over these airs what he said, but he basically said, you had a good workout. Now do that bleep again. See if you can do it again. Right. And so I got out there. I don't think I missed a shot. I think I had an even better workout the second time they brought me in. And so he does the same thing again. He just walks off. I leave. Agents say, hey, how'd you do? I was like, I don't think I missed a shot today. And so he says, he's like, yeah, they probably won't draft you anyway. They have the same players literally in their prime. Like, look at the list of players that were there. But I didn't know organizations have, they're going to trade players. They're going to move players. They got plans behind the scenes. So I didn't know that at the time. So they end up drafting me. I walk into 3 championships, play 11 years, and then the rest is history. So,
that's a great story on a couple levels. I wrote down notes, and we don't have to go on them, but you talked about so many things have to fall in place, and I agree that have to do that, but part of that is preparation, right? So you were always in a place where you were prepared to seize the moment when those things did fall in place. It's one thing to have the breaks fall either for or against you, but if you're not prepared to take advantage of it, that was paramount to you. Is your brother still a better player? Your older brother, can he still take you? Did he say that he can?
No, he thought he could for a while. So I think it might have been my second year in the league. And he's still in his mind, this is my little brother. I'll always be able to beat you.
Yeah.
And he's the urban legend in our neighborhood that people tell tales about. One time I saw him dunk a basketball. He played baseball right after, threw the ball 10 miles. He has all those urban legends in our neighborhood that he did. And people always thought it would be him. If anybody went pro, it would be him, not the little brother. But what most people don't understand is when you're playing against better talent and bigger players, and you're getting pushed all the time, that strengthens
helps
you,
you
not
develop,
them.
right? Yeah.
And so when I go play against, people my age, it's nothing because I've been getting beat up from my brother and his friends. This is nothing. This is child's play, playing against, other guys. So we had actually it was at his wedding too in Mexico. I was in sock shoes and he was talking and I just had to show him, I just let him know, hey, basically when you're working all day, 8 hours a day, this is what I'm doing. Things have changed. This is my job. 8 hours a day. I get up every day and do this all day long, all night long. You do something else. And so I wore them out and we haven't had a
There
discussion.
you go. So you closed that case. So you've been with so now you're with the Lakers, and then you were able to do this in multiple places. But let's talk about your path towards philanthropy, giving back, making a difference. And I really like how you go through the story of how the NBA mandated your engagement to the community, but that really ended up becoming a pivot point for you. So take the community through what you were doing there.
Yeah, well, really, I got started one, I was always appreciative because they were like professionals that were able to kind of come full circle as a youngster when in Minnesota, our guy was Kirby Puckett. Rest in peace, Kirby Puckett. Like when we were young.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Kirby Puckett having a speaking engagement at this bowling alley. And he pulled me out of the crowd of like, you, come here. And he just kind of had me in the headlock. You know, the whole time he's just talking to the other kids and just kind of rubbing my head and just kind of, just kind of and I was just kind of in awe, like, this is Kirby Puckett. That was our Michael Jordan in Minnesota. If anybody baseball fans. And so
right.
Just knowing how I felt as an older man, how I remember that day, I realized how impactful athletes can be on people, especially kids. Here I am, 40-something-year-old man, can remember that day like it was yesterday because of just the little gesture that he did. So I always had that in my mind of, if I were able to do this and get in this position, I'm going to do things different. I'm going to take the time. There won't be a kid that say, hey, he didn't give me a picture or sign my autograph, because that's impactful to these kids. We have a voice. These kids think we're not human beings, and some adults. And then also too, as you know, the community I'm from, I couldn't afford the nice basketball camps. But so Pooh Richardson was a professional Timberwolf at the time, and they would give me, they would let me come to the camp for free and whatnot, and I was always appreciative. But it came full circle when Pooh and his management and all his people, they lived in LA. I get drafted, and then he could come and say, hey man, this Laker right here, this is the guy. I used to let him come to my camp for free. So I've always had those things kind of come back in full circle and say, hey man, I got to do something too, because there's been a lot of people that have helped me out along the way as well. I mean, the schools I went to, we couldn't afford the schools we went to, and the donors never wanted to meet me or let me see them. They would pay the tuition. I would write cards and stuff at the holidays, but they never wanted to. And I'm sure they knew this seed that they sowed to help this kid get an education now plays in the NBA. I'm sure they have never knew who they were or knew anything, but they just kind of gave up.
Right.
So I've always had things like that have kind of impacted me in my thinking of when I'm helping people or trying to do things. And so that's what led me, once I got to the NBA, the commercials that people see, the Read to Achieve and the CARES and stuff like that we're, during games at a timeout, those are mandatory events that each team in every city has a certain amount of mandatory events that those players or representatives need to get back out into the community, because these guys support us like no other. These communities do. So we have to give our time, whether that go be handing out turkeys, going to children's homes, going to underprivileged schools, after school programs, reading books, whatever it is, it's mandatory. So when I get to the Lakers, I'm a young guy. I'm the youngest guy. The next youngest guy is Kobe Bryant. So I'm lowest man on the totem pole. So the next person with me is Kobe, and he's already established. So he's not. So it's only me. So, and then we win the championship and trade our picks. You win the championship and trade the picks, you don't have anybody else. So who else is still low on the totem pole? Me. So I have to keep doing rookie duties year after year after year. And so on these mandatory events, it was a mutual beneficial exchange of like good, of whatever we felt. The kids felt good, I felt good. But when I would go read a 30-minute book to kids, you could just see them like going crazy. A Laker came and read a book for 30 minutes to them. It's like they talked about it all year. They couldn't believe it. And then I started to go to different schools and different neighborhoods, and kids would always, when it comes to question and answer, you always have how big is Shaq, or but the majority of the questions where the kids were like starting to ask, can I touch you? I'm like, I didn't understand, like, what do you mean? And then I reach my arm out and they touch me. I'm like, Yeah, it's flesh. I'm just like you and human beings. But again, this is all going into my thinking of like, these kids really think if we get cut, we don't bleed, or we're something else other than what they are. We're human beings just like them. So I just combine all of that. And then as I start to go, I had fun with it. Like I always give my all on everything I do, whether that's volunteer, whether that's paid appearances that we used to get, it's the same. You won't say, hey, I'm giving it my all just because this is a paid appearance with Toyota or I'm going to read it you. It's the same effort every time. It's the same energy every time. So um, I start to enjoy it or whatever because we're humans, and when we can impact somebody and make somebody feel good and tell a kid cheer up, and we read a book and their day, that means something to some of us, that we can do that. All it takes is us to read a book to these kids. And so all of that combined, I started getting requested, hey, I know we want to send some of the other Lakers, whatever. Can you send Devin? Can you send them? So I started to do more and more. So all the engagements, I'm like, hey, we're supposed to be splitting this thing up, man. 2 people here, 3 of us go this time, and kind of just spread it out. And so they just kept requesting me. And then I was low man in the total pole. I didn't have commercial shoots to do, you know. I didn't have family and kids to go pick up after practice. So they're like, send Deb. Deb, you're going. And I'm like, come on, man. So, but I started to enjoy it. And as I did it year after year, I got involved with a program back in Minneapolis, where I'm from. It's called Why Can't I Go? And what I would do is single out 20 kids and chaperones and fly them out to LA.
Oh,
let
wow.
them meet the players, and then after they meet the players, they stay at the game. And then the next day they would go to Disneyland, and then put them in a hotel, and then they would go home. But those were for the kids that they had to have good attendance. They had to do some community service. They had to be staying out of trouble. It wasn't just randomly picking kids. It was just really 20 kids that just excelling, that just need an opportunity to get outside. And then the letters that I would get after from the chaperones, the kids were just kind of confused, like, what is he, why would he do this? He doesn't even know me. He doesn't know us. I don't understand it. Like, that was life changing. So fast forward, I played 7 years in LA. The next 3 years I would play in Dallas. So I played in Dallas, and at the time I got involved with the program there called the Buckner Foundation. And Reverend Johnny Flowers, they had got some seats donated to for the kids that were sitting behind the bench. And it was brought to my attention that, hey, there were some kids here, they need some shoes, they need some t-shirts and stuff like that. And, really nice kids. So I called my Nike rep at the time, was sponsored with Nike, and said, hey man, I need a box of some stuff, some shoes. Can you send it to me? They shipped me the box. I got it, shipped it right to Johnny Flowers. I had his card. So he calls me back and he's like, hey man, I want to, bring you over to our center, and I want to show you some things. And our kids want to thank you. I said, that's not a problem, man. I actually got it all for free, so don't even worry about it, Rev. I'm glad the kids enjoy it. The Nike sent it to me. They said, ship it to the kids. It was a phone call. That was it. So no problem. He said, no, but I really want to show you something. I said, okay, I'll let you know one of the days. I'll come by once, from practice. And in Dallas, we practice downtown in South Dallas. It's only 10 minutes away, 10, 15 minutes out, so I can just stop in. So I said, all right, one of these days I'll stop in. So as I come in, that's when I kind of got my idea of what I'm doing now. So Reverend Johnny, he received a donation from Bank of America. They gave him the land for $1 and they helped him do rehab. Well, there was a community of like these 8-plex buildings, and he used them all for different things. He had housing in a bunch of them for people that needed housing. He had a therapy building where there were like a bunch of therapists, and they're giving kids and women and people therapy, and that have seen traumatic experiences, gunshots, and mothers that have been abused. He had that. He had a food shelf in one of them where he's got people that are, need groceries and things like that. He had a church in one where people, give people church things and all that. He had one with after school programming. So when the kids come in, the building there, all the kids are in there doing after school, and he had a gym. So we had all this kind of community in just one big, large plot of land with all these buildings in it. And I thought it was just awesome. And he was like, look, I know everybody asked you guys for money. I don't want any money. Can you come in? So words started coming in that I would come in and be helping the kids with their homework and stuff like that. And then the kids just start coming in and in. And he was like, that's what I want. He said, once I get them in, I got them.
Right.
I need you to help me lure them in. And they all, hey, this guy, one of the Mavericks, he's always there. Devean George, he used to play with the Lakers. He's always at that community center. So it started bringing kids in. And what that was doing is really taking their attention off of what they could be doing, at 3 o'clock after school when they have free time. But now they're going in there looking for me at Reverend Johnny Flowers at the Buckner Foundation. And that's what he wanted, not them to be experimenting with things on their own, but come over there and work with him. And then he also had a brilliant idea. Once he got them all over there, one of those buildings was a studio where they could write rhymes. There were kids rapping. There were kids, taking turns in the studio booth and all this and that. And he was like, I'm like, this is very popular. He's like, yeah. He's like, that's fine. He's like, I don't even know if any of them have any talent. I don't even care. But they're in here doing something. They're writing rhymes. They're taking turns.
Right.
Because I don't care if any of them ever be anything else, in music. They're here. This is what they have interest in. We're going to have it there. So all of that come together in my final piece of really how helping people out. And I think you use something all the time. You use it, not a handout, but a hand up. And there were some families that was working with Reverend Johnny, and he had came to me and said, I know, I said I would never ask you for, any money or anything, but what do you think of this? He's like, I got about 4 families. They have kids. They've been going through my training. They've been doing my empowerment. They've been at church on Sundays. They've cleaned it up. The mother and father have turned it into a union, but they just don't have any money to buy their kids Christmas presents. So I was like, you know what? That's not a problem at all. Mm-hmm. And so at the time, it was my firstborn boy. I always wanted a boy. He was being born. And so I was like, you know what? This is my 10th year in the league. No, 9th year in the league. I don't have anything else I want to buy. Don't have anything else I want to drive. I let everybody know this Christmas, if you're not a kid in the George family or a baby, you won't be receiving any Christmas presents. Mm-hmm. That's going to these other families. So don't look for Uncle D. If you're a kid, Uncle D, don't call me. Don't check the mailbox because it ain't coming. We're taking that and we're going to do, we're putting these families. And I said, you know what? Matter of fact, I called Reverend Johnny back and said, don't give me the kids' wish list of Christmas. Give me the parents too, what they want so they can have it. Because that showed me something that they were saying, don't even worry about us. Just get our kids something. I said, nope, we're going to take it a step further. We're going to get the whole family. Everybody's going to have Christmas. So after that happened, we kind of checked in on what that did to that family. And that was one of the things that kind of, again, it's all these little things is kind of coming in, and the experiences and the things that work and what people are looking for are just kind of getting built in my head. So at the time, I had owned this block of land of dilapidated buildings in North Minneapolis. It was an old club my dad used to run, and it fell into tax lien. So I just bought it up and kept it, paid the taxes on it, and just didn't know what to do with it. Well, as I started to retire, I got into real estate, and then 2008, 2009, we had that crash. And then as I started to get into real estate, learning information about development, I had a partner that was really seasoned and was saying, hey, why don't you come in and partner? I can show you, you have some cash. A lot of developers at this time, a little bit down on cash right now through this downturn. I can show you the ropes, teach you everything. So I kind of learned from him. And then after that, the final piece was to the puzzle was I always was getting requested by friends that I played college ball with, went to school with. They always wanted me to come in and speak to your kids. Can you come talk to my kids? Can you come and say hi to my kids? Can you come and say hi? Can you do this?
And this is back in Minneapolis, right? Now that you're coming back hometown. Mm-hmm.
I'm coming back home. And then at the same time, coming back home, my dad was he's a big community guy. And so he always said, these are the people that protected you, took care of you, looked after you in this neighborhood, are fans of you, and we gonna take care of them. And so what I would do when I come back, just want to go see my dad, hang out with my dad. We going in, he's calling everybody, everyone coming to the yard. We live on the corner, everybody's coming in, showing up. I'm taking pictures. He's going in, we getting in the car, we going in and going to Miss Millie's and taking pictures with her. And we going all, I'm like, Dad, come on, you're killing me, man. He's like, no. And so going in there, seeing people, how people are living, seeing their environment, all of that again is coming into what I'm doing right now. I skipped over, I had a situation happen in college that really shaped me too. I remember it was probably my sophomore year, no, junior year. The Bulls were playing the Seattle Supersonics in the finals. And I was home on a Sunday bringing laundry home because I would go home on Sundays, do my laundry, go back to the dorm rooms. When I was there, my younger brother, him and his best friend, they all play on our porch. They was always there. And obviously we lived in the worst neighborhood and they were playing on the porch. I'm laying in the room, gunshots come through, machine gun, sprays, everything, just sprays my house up. There was a guy walking past. They weren't shooting at my house, but the guy was just walking past in front. And a guy got in a car, lone shooter, and he's shooting out the window towards my house. So he's driving down the street, but he's pointing the gun out the window, just spraying bullets. One bullet hit my brother's best friend, killed him instantly. So at that time, I heard my brother and him arguing with each other. And my brother was telling him, "Hey, Nookie, get in the house." He was like, "Chape, I can't. I'm shot. He's like, "Quit playing. You play too much. Get in the house." He's like, "I'm shot, Chape. I can't." So at that time, I knew. I grabbed the cordless phone. I'm running down the stairs, calling 911. By the time I got down there, he had a white T-shirt on, one bullet hole to his heart, not a lot of blood at all. Died right there. My mom comes in. She doesn't know what's going on. Now, all of this is happening from different points of view. I'm upstairs in the house, hearing the gunshots. No, that's not firecrackers. That's gunshot. Hearing my brother and him argue with each other. My brother telling him, "Get in the house, they're shooting." But my mom and her friend are driving home. So just imagine her viewpoint. She's driving towards her house. So when we turn the corner on Penn and Golden Valley Road, you can see our house. We're right on the corner. So just imagine what she's thinking. She's driving down the street towards her home. Well, when the guy leans out the window to shoot at this other guy, he comes on the wrong side of the street. So he's about to run head on to my mom and her friend. My mom's telling her, like, move over, but she's panicking because she sees a guy leaning out of the window, shooting a gun towards her house on the wrong side of the street. So she's like having that, she jumps out, she's going crazy, like, what's going on? And it just chaos. I mean, I think everybody in the whole neighborhood knew there's always kids. My mom, my mom did hair. So she was always cutting everyone, the kids' hair. If they, couldn't afford a haircut, she's cutting their hair. And so there was always, and we lived on the corner, there's always a bunch of kids at our house. So when they were shooting happen in the area, people probably instantly like, "Oh, it's crazy. There's kids out there all the time." I mean, everybody in their house, just people running out of the streets and from homes. And I just remember everyone coming and he died right there. And that kind of shaped me to where we are.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting about this message is that the experiences that you were exposed to that were out of your control, the ones that you made conscious decisions as part of the mandates of the NBA, and then things that you elected to do, are all elements that shaped where you evolved to and how it formated the creation of the building blocks affordable housing model that we're going to allow people to take a look at. And I want you to expand on it, but in order to put things in context, I know that it might be Abby or somebody, Nathan or somebody could actually help roll tape. I want to jump right to the first video one so the community can see what Devin has taken all of these experiences and has created on behalf of the community. Can we do that, Roy and team? Can we activate?
Yep, I can
We're
share my
get that done
screen
for you right now.
Thank you very much.
I took advantage of free lunches. I was always in the financial aid. I was one that took from these opportunities, and so it's only right for me to feel like I need to refill these pots back up. So started my nonprofit Building Blocks. I'm a retired NBA veteran. I now do community work and real estate development. Everyone has humble beginnings. We're going to North Minneapolis, where I was born and raised. Yeah, just right here in the corner. This is where my dad still lives. This is the house I grew up in. The neighborhood had a lot of obstacles. There's crime, obviously, drugs. The overall goal is to get the families out of survival mode. Housing is the foundation with everything. One thing isn't going to just change it all, but as you start to see of 3, 4, 5 kids starting to change, get opportunities, 3 or 4 families starting to change, their income's changing, and now they're buying a house. That's the ripple effect that happens, and then they pass it on. People are more excited about this building I put up, more so than anything that I've done on the basketball court.
I'm a single mom with 4 kids, 2 girls, 2 boys.
I have a resident, Maisha, that's in the building right now, went through a divorce, lost a job, had a real life situation, stuff come up.
For me, affordable housing means it's an opportunity to start over in life again. It doesn't mean that you're below anyone else. It just means that you're going through something or transition in life, and it gives you a stepping stone to be able to build over again.
Take a deep breath, have a place where kids can go.
It has a co-op. I can go right downstairs and get fresh fruit, fresh vegetables to juice up.
It's a special project, the co-op grocery store that is up and running and going. When you have an underserved community, it's stressful. And so I started my grocery store in a food desert place where we can kind of at least get the ball rolling. And now coming up, she's moving out of the building and she's buying a house.
I'm in the process of buying a house again, and it feels so good.
When I drive up and see the building, it gives me purpose. This is where it goes down at. And now after the programs, I know what this guy wants to do. I know what she wants to do. Are you on the right path of doing that? Ty, he reminds me of myself, of just kind of how focused I was, driven, good attitude. Honor roll Emmett, that's his new nickname, because he's getting good grades.
I feel like this building will help me. It'll help me succeed my dreams.
Well, he's in a tough situation, but he's excelling.
I feel like good going in there. Like I don't have no worries.
Ty's getting recognized for being an outstanding student. I want you to have this Building Blocks Character Award with your name on it.
If I'm having a hard day, like it cheers me up. The members cheer me up a lot and stuff. So that's why I like it, because it's supportive.
I wanted to make sure you knew. I see what you're doing and I know what you're doing, so I want you to keep doing it. That's what Building Blocks is about, is dreaming about doing whatever it is you want to do and staying on path.
Dreaming of being in my own home, dreaming of having a good, stable job, dreaming of making sure that I'm able to provide for them.
Like it's helping me a lot now to learn, because I'm learning new things every day from it.
You can actually spread your wings and fly.
It warms my heart because I know this building is a sign of hope and help.
Right on. You know what, Devin? How many times have we played that? I never get tired of watching that. That's such a great film. But again, so I'm hoping the community is starting to see background experience, what you tapped in, the abundance of experience that kind of shaped your digression or your progress into making these things happen. And then we see that in action. For the next 5 minutes, talk to the community about how you purposefully, with intentions, did affordable housing, the Building Blocks program, that unique mixed integration of services meets housing, and how that really transformed the community.
Yeah, so really, it started again with Dallas with Reverend Johnny Flowers. And, one of the things I always say is that, even though I do have this model that I tinker with a little bit in each community, the meat and potatoes of it all and the goal of it all is the same. All underserved communities can take this model and apply it. It's not just a North Minneapolis thing. Any underserved community can come in, take this model, and help things go through. I stole it from Dallas, and Reverend Johnny, he always says, I always like to give credit when people teach me things and I learn, and it's a proven method. But he had that, and I just took it and ran. I took it and ran. I got involved, got in the trenches, and just learned, what people are needing, what's going on. But really, the biggest thing where I started doing the housing is because I go back to think, okay, what helped me be successful? Well, we lived in the house for 40 years and still own the house today. I knew where I was going to live at every day. I had meal on the table every day, more than enough food. So those were things that are just basic needs. What people don't understand is in these underserved communities, people are in survival mode. There is no thinking about education. There is no thinking about anything else. The thing is thinking about, how do I survive? When is my next meal coming from? So I always keep that in mind, because my dad still lives in the community and we still have a really good touch on what's going on in the community. But really, when I started going in and talking, and as I mentioned earlier, talking to the guys that I played college ball with and friends I knew that got involved in social work and principals and after school programs and stuff like that, I noticed that kids were missing so much at times. When you have kids that are in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, they're missing, that's on the parents, that's on the housing. Well, what it is, the reality of it is that, they're staying at mom's boyfriend tonight, auntie's house tomorrow, grandmother's house, and there's just no stable housing where they live there in the same place and they're getting to school every day. And so I said, well, in order for me to kind of come in, which I was doing, which all NBA guys do, we go in and we try to be a good role model and say, hey, go to school, get good grades, and eat vegetables. That's the gist of all of our talks. It's true, but how can anybody ever think of that if they don't even know where their next meal is coming from, or where they stand, or where they're gonna lay their head down when school or when this program is over? And so that's when I said, well, let me combine it all. Let me get a mixed-use building, build it, have residents where they can live above, and then the program space, they can come down and we can do community service events like after school programs. And I can work with other social services to come in that won't be able to come on site. And, I guess the secret to, and it's no secret, but the secret to why my projects have been successful is because I've looked at it more than just the bricks and mortars. And most people think of it, as just solve the problem. We'll just put up a bunch of apartment units where people can live. That's the easiest part. It's the services. It's the connection. When I call somebody and say, hey, I have a bunch of pregnant moms in my building. Can you bring your services over? Yes, we're happy to. They love hearing from me. I don't do those services, but people love hearing from me, asking them to come on. And so that's kind of how I've kind of combined it and why. And that's what's been successful, is I've been able to reach out and get people help.
Correct. And one of the things I think I want the audience, community, and it's also parlaying off one of the questions that's being asked is what's been most impressive about Devin is not only the delivery of the model, the integration of the services, the impact on the community, but as he systematically stepped into the power of his accomplishment, the influence capital he has in helping support the underserved community, which we'll touch on just a little bit. But now he's sort of taking it upon the model that says, I am available, and this model is available to co-develop, partner with affordable housing developers who want to have our unique secret sauce of integrated services in underserved markets, partnering up with other players in the community that they either grew up or played in, that they want to learn and build a legacy-like project. Because like you said, Devin, there's people who are like, can you just pick this up and bring it to New Orleans, pick it up and take it to Memphis, take it to wherever. And that is available. So expound on that a little bit and kind of parlay that into what would you like to share with this community of and how they can support you? Is it partnerships? Is it other opportunities? Is it funding to help to support some more of these projects? So hit on those two dynamics.
Yeah, that's great, because I'm actually glad it went slow, and the early stages have been a one-man show, just me. And it's really been able to give me, and from the video you just saw, I was just doing the work. I didn't, not a big social media guy, so I didn't know, like, okay, before I go do this, record it, get a picture. I'm just doing it. And so people didn't know what I was doing. And when the Players Tribune contacted me on players, because as you know, from going on, in sports now, players and a lot of people in big corporations are now starting to say, we need to start cleaning these communities up. We need to start helping players. The reality of it is we need to get in these communities and start doing things because we're from there. That's just, there's no way to look at it. There's nothing to say about it. Is the reality of it is most of us basketball players and professional athletes come from these areas. So guys are starting to think, man, how can I do this and how can I do that? And that's when I've been getting a lot of calls of guys wanting to do that. But really with the Players Tribune in this video you just saw is they changed it because they wanted to see what is it that guys actually want to do for their community. They want to kind of get in touch with guys. Hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And they said, no, let's flip it. Let's show a guy that's doing it and is done and, highlight it. And so that was kind of, the video kind of got some traction and kind of got some people interested in things going forward. So that's really, what was the second part of the question that you wanted to know? Uh-oh. Did I lose Danny?
Yeah, I'm here. So Devin, I think that as Danny was talking about all of that great work that you've done there. Hopefully he'll jump back on here in just a minute. I think one of the challenges you talked about being up in Minneapolis and the program for the housing is how do we replicate opportunities from this social entrepreneur perspective? Because so many of the organizations that do amazing work in their communities, many of them nonprofits, right? Each year they spend an enormous amount of time running after funding and looking for support and trying to identify how they can create a sustainable model to allow them to continue to do that work. So, to me, that's really what I love about the work that you're doing.
Yeah, and to jump on your point, hey, welcome back, Danny. To your point is really it's been a great connection with my developments because I've been able to bring to the table what these other organizations don't have, and vice versa. So I don't have staffing to help single mothers that are pregnant. I don't have that staff or the know-how, but I have space where you can come on site and help people. So most of the nonprofits and most of the people that the social mission-driven pieces that are needed for these, they don't have the space. So I'll carve out some space in the development and say, hey, I got space for you if you come supply the services. And then it will be, I'll be able to use tax credits for it because it's a community service and so forth, and how I put the deal together. But that's really what I've been doing, is trying to merge me having space in close proximity to people that need those services and reaching out to these nonprofits and these social services, bringing them on site and saying, hey, I got 65 families upstairs that need exactly what you do. And they love it because they're walking past their door every day or whatnot. So that's kind of what I've been doing with these developments.
Very good. Well, as always, we set the stage that if I fall off, you guys can just keep right on rolling without any hiccup. Roy, do you think, is there anything else the community would like to hear about Devin before we either roll the second video to show what phase 2 looks like? And I want Devin to have like a minute to say, what did you learn from phase 1 that you decided to apply in phase 2? Are there expanded services? Is it just more of the same? What do you do with this one, and what lessons did you learn so we can show the people a little bit about phase 2 that you completed?
So the phase 2, I really wanted to focus more on the services, but have more commercial space for wealth building. There's a restaurant there that will have services and let people rent the kitchen and combine it with local caterers, because that's a big business in the community that people don't realize, is that catering. Everyone in communities think they can cook or bake or whatever. So they cook and bake and they sell goods or whatever. That's wealth building. But a lot of people, so the focus on phase 2 have been the commercial space, because that's one thing that people really can't do that have goods or services. They can't sign a triple net lease and guaranteed down payment and tenant improvements and build out costs. They don't have that. So I get that built into so that we can start working on wealth creation and added more services as well. So this is phase 2 of it.
Yeah, I've always applauded the model because, like you said, it's beyond a structural housing. It's about giving the services, making them in close proximity, and building a true economic 360 cycle of being able to have a self-sustaining community that it shapes and impacts the community, how clean it is, how people like being there, restaurants. The commercial kitchen is brilliant. As you said, there's so many families that know how to bake goods and cater, and that, being able to have that at their disposal. So Roy, do we have time to run a video
let's Ethan, let's run the second tape now.
That'd be great.
A former NBA world champion with ties to North Minneapolis is celebrating the opening of brand new affordable housing.
Devean George and his business partners are doing what they can to transform the landscape and overall feel of the North Side with this project. WCCO's Reg Chapman was given the grand tour.
The second phase of Commons at Penn Avenue is complete, and Penn Avenue Union does not disappoint.
Luxury living at an affordable price.
63 units, a mixture of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms.
We want to have an opportunity to create an environment that really allows residents to feel good about where they live.
National award-winning architect Jamil Ford says he wanted to improve on the first phase of the project.
To increase the overall sizes of some of the residential windows on the first floor.
Ford and business partner Devean George has one goal: make affordable housing units that look anything but.
A lot of times I get a lot of the credit, but I got a great team of people.
George was part of 3 NBA championship teams with the Los Angeles Lakers. He tries to recreate that special connection with his very own team.
I'm taking from a pool of great resources that people are passing over, a lot of black women.
George's property manager, director of operations, compliance manager, and head of maintenance are all black women. The construction company, architect and developer, all black owned and operated companies. For George, this is more than brick and mortar. It's about community. He grew up a couple of blocks away. He hopes to fill these units with people in need of a second chance.
I'm not going to be a robot when it comes to the application process of people getting in, because that's the problem. People may have a criminal record, people may have gone out of jail, they have made some decisions in the past that may prevent them from getting housing.
He hopes people begin to take pride in where they live, interact with their neighbors, and build relationships that help build community. Reg Chapman, WCCO 4 News.
George says that he had a lot of partners to make this project possible. The City of Minneapolis, Bremer Banks, and the Phillips and Pohlad Foundations all played a role in getting it done.
Good. Thank you, Ethan. That's well timed. So I think we're coming up on the time allotment. Roy, is there anything that you would like for us to wrap up and or address? If there's any questions or thoughts that you have that we can bring it home for the community.
Well, I'd love to hear how people from our network and our community can get involved or collaborate with you. That's what we're about, is finding the way to connect and bring these types of opportunities to different markets, different communities. So what's the best way to go about that, Devean?
Well, I would say go through Danny. He has all my information. Danny can get something and get all of that together and pass it on. But I would just say what I'm looking for is in help in every area, because there's people that have back office expertise. There's people that have other development experience. There's we always in need for investors. And that's one of the things too that I like to say, that these are investments too. So it's not all donations. It's investments where people can invest in people and communities, get a return, and then help people along the way. And so it's a double investment. It may not be what Bitcoin or whatever people are doing now that make your money overnight, but you can get a great tax-free return and help people. So that's what I want people to also understand, that there's investments and there's also donations and philanthropy for our after-school programs and whatnot.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
that's one of the things, Roy. I got to double down on the commendation for Devin, who, in my estimation, had really begun over the last 12, 18 months. He's really taken it upon his shoulders. Is that I'm here to use what I've accomplished and to be a spear point and a steward of educating the active real estate, multifamily, and impact investing community that affordable housing done the right way, financially engineered the right way, integrated with the right services, earmarked to serve the underserved, is not a less than investment vehicle. It is done correctly, a substantial investment with all those tax credits, and for those who are looking to say, can I make a difference, build a legacy, and get a good return? Devin has put that responsibility on his shoulder and continues to just grow and have that engagement with all sorts of people from the investment and the philanthropy class.
Well, Devin, Danny, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insight. I think it's an incredible model that needs to be replicated and scaled in so many different areas, but beyond housing, and really a way to transform communities, a way to create sustainable funding and resources for so many different organizations. So we appreciate both of you taking time out of your schedules to join us today.
Thank you, Roy. Good job, D. I'll catch you later, man.
Okay, see you guys.
Bye-bye.
All right. And for all of our viewers and listeners, we appreciate you taking time to be here with us for the first day of Sports Philanthropy World. We're excited about a great day coming up tomorrow. Some fantastic sessions and speakers. We're going to start 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern with the first session with Mark Pollock and Yusuf Nursic from Portland Trailblazers. We're going to be some great breakout sessions and some great ways to close the day. So thank you so much. I know it's been a long day, packed full of sessions, packed full of energy, amazing people. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you in the morning. Don't forget to live generously.